welcome you all not just to London, but to Parliament Square. To Parliament Square, and it's symbolically important. This is the home of protest. It's the home of action. It's the home of social and political progress for centuries in our nations. From the Chartists to the suffragettes, from the civil and gay and human rights movements to trade union protests and the fight now for our NHS. And colleagues, be under no illusions, this is going to be a fight. To my right, literally and of course politically, sit all of those bastards that are making decisions right now to slash and trash and privatise our NHS. This is a group of Tory MPs who don't use it, don't need it. They go private tomorrow, just like they do with their kids' education. They're now making us all go private as public money seeps off into the private sector with privatisation after privatisation after privatisation of our services. Public money going into the profit sheets of private corporations who will run off to the nearest tax haven at the first opportunity to siphon it away into their own pockets. And they'll do that, comrades, while 3.9 million people sit on waiting lists. They sit around doing nothing, while 1.8 million people sit around for hours in accident and emergency units. They lounge around, dreaming up the next scam, the next opportunity to siphon off another public service to their mates in the city. Colleagues, even the British Red Cross, just in January of this year, said the NHS is facing a humanitarian crisis. People die on trolleys in corridors. Hospitals across our country are declaring emergencies. We've got 26 fewer nurses than we need in our NHS and 3,500 fewer midwives there to deliver our kids. Colleagues, this crisis is not going to just go away. It's a political choice, a deliberate and calculated attack on our proudest achievement, our NHS. So while today's huge and getting bigger by the second as thousands join us, it's important, but it'll take more than this to defeat the Tories and this attack. So we demand next week in the budget the billions and billions of pounds that have been robbed from our NHS to come back to our NHS. Colleagues, it's a fact. The history of social and political progress is a history of struggle. It's a history of civil disobedience, of public protest, even of riot and industrial action. We have to unite our movement. We have to link up with our communities. We have to take the fight to the heart of every town and village and city of our nations. It's our NHS. It's not their NHS. It's our NHS, and it's our fight. Colleagues, the fight starts now. Are you up for it? Yeah. Our fight.
Hello, everyone. It's incredible to see so many thousands of people here. Under sunny skies, we stand here in defence of the NHS and in defiance of the apathy and desperation promulgated by our murderously cynical government. In the 2 minutes that I have here on this stage, I would like to share with you the original words of the leaflet distributed to every household in Britain at the inception of the NHS in 1948. Now, the first paragraph of this leaflet perfectly encapsulates the foundational principles of the NHS as laid out by an Iron Bevan. Now, I've read these words out many a time, but they deserve to be repeated. They deserve to be etched in our minds. I will quote, "The NHS will provide you with all medical, dental and nursing care. Everyone, rich or poor, man, woman or child, can use it or any part of it. There are no charges except for a few special items. There are no insurance qualifications. But it's not a charity. You are all paying for it, mainly as taxpayers, and it will relieve your money worries in times of illness." So those 5 lines which I've just quoted in this simple little leaflet manages to put forward the principles of universality, of equality, of redistribution, and perhaps most importantly, of freedom. Freedom from the fear of catastrophic healthcare costs, and freedom from the condescensions of charity. This is what it's all about. Ultimately, it boils down to this simple truth. The purposeful undermining of the NHS by this government is a reflection of the undermining of the civility of our society as a whole. A mass movement to defend the NHS must become part of a wider mass movement for social justice in this country. Let's make it happen. Let's start today. Thank you.
Wow. We are just getting reports that nearly 200,000 people have attended this march today. Well done, Britain! I am a junior doctor. I have been working in the NHS for nearly a decade, and I have the privilege of looking after patients with cancer, and more than that, as Yanis has repeated, I have the freedom to look after them based on what they need, not based on what an insurance company thinks their life is worth. Now, there are not many doctors in the world who are lucky enough to say that. And I'm worried that I won't be able to say that much longer. I'm concerned that you are not being told what is happening to the NHS. That in fact in 2012 the NHS was legally abolished. I'm concerned that you don't know that since that time there have been a tidal wave of private companies taking over your NHS from the inside. And I am concerned that it is being misreported and spun that this is a good thing, when I am telling you it leads to higher costs, fragmented, poorer quality care, and must be resisted. Now, myself and Yanis were just 2 of nearly 50,000 junior doctors who tried our very best to avert this crisis that we saw coming a mile off. We tried. And there were so many of you that came out in the rain and the cold to support us because you saw through the Jeremy Hunt spin. You knew how important that fight was. And it isn't over. It isn't over, and there is hope. When we all start acting together, we can change things. The answer will be the reinstatement of the NHS, back to its original principles, back to the universality of 1948. This is being tabled by the Labour Party on the 24th of March. Every single one of us needs to get back and support that, because when we do, when we all realise the strength of our collective voice together, that is when real change will happen, and that is when we will win our NHS back. Thank
you. Colleagues, fantastic contributions from people at the front line defending our NHS and helping us, of course, in the process. Now, we've got some fantastic speakers for you this afternoon. We've got Jeremy Corbyn's going to join us. We've got Dave Wall, General Secretary of the CWU. We've got the fantastic Mark Sawatker, my own General Secretary. Len McCuskey's going to be with us. speaking as well. But just to kick this off, we've got now Tony O'Sullivan. Tony O'Sullivan has been a campaigner all his life. He's a fighter for our NHS. He's the co-chair of Keep Our NHS Public and the Save the Lewisham Hospital campaign as well. Tony.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear? Because somebody's saying they can't hear at the back. If you can't hear, you wouldn't know, would you? Anyway, I retired a year ago from my work as consultant paediatrician. I had the privilege of working with disabled children and their families, and the added privilege, of course, of defending Lewisham Hospital, which is still incredibly busy and incredibly successful. In my years in the NHS, we've always worked together with other agencies, committed to helping disabled young people to realise their potential. We in the NHS achieved real integrated care with other agencies. Our skill and our commitment in the staff was working together with patients. We don't need Simon Stevens or STPs to tell us what integration means. Now, as co-chair of Keep Our NHS Public, a job I didn't really plan for in retirement, the fight is on to save the very services that those families that I've worked with for 25 years rely on. This government is opposed to funding public services. It's contemptuous of staff working themselves into the ground. Instead of the integration it speaks of, it is disintegrating the NHS and social care. It's breaking apart the NHS and creating a system, as we've heard, where increasingly private companies make profit from our suffering. The government puts this through. This is such a wonderful day because so many people here show us that we've woken up. But the government has been peddling lies repeatedly, and one of them is that community care will replace the need for 30% of hospital beds. And what's the result? 15,000 hospital beds have been lost in the last 6 years. And in January, there were scenes of a child awaiting assessment for meningitis asleep on 2 chairs in casualty for 8 hours before he was even assessed. Savage cuts to community social care and to health visitors and school nurses and community nurses and public health, and hospitals like Ealing, which has lost its maternity service and its paediatric wards, mean that the lie about community care has been exposed. Community care is not cheaper, it will not save money, it will not reduce the need for hospitals, and it needs massive investment, not cuts. Keep Our NHS Public is 12 years old, and we've been there for holding 3 governments to account. We've got local campaign groups up and down the country. Our principle is that we must unite on what we agree on to defend the NHS, not pathetically divide on what we disagree on. If we learn anything from the Conservative Party in their ideological hatred of the NHS and public services, we must unite to come together to demand a united call for a public service, publicly funded and publicly provided. We're proud of what we achieved today, proud of the demonstration, but the only value of coming here today is if we go away determined to get involved and join in the battle for our NHS and social care. I'm finishing now, but I heard an ambulance speaker the other night saying that she daily sees elderly people in their beds calling out an ambulance service having failed to have their social care visits, mentally disturbed people unable to get any care from social care. We demand on this demonstration public social care as well as public health care. So please resolve today to join us in tomorrow's battles to win back a comprehensive, well-funded health service and social care for all, publicly funded, publicly managed and publicly provided, and see you soon in battle.
Migrant workers, play a key role in the NHS. Without them, the NHS could not function. They are the living rebuttal to all the racist lies that try to blame the problems of the NHS on migrants, but in fact they are the people who keep the NHS together. So please give a warm welcome to Ariel Illustre, who's a healthcare assistant at the University Hospital Coventry and Warwickshire, and he's from Unison's Filipino Activist Network.
Mabuhay! Good afternoon. My name is Ariel Illustre, a member of Unison. I am a Filipino health worker. I am a British Filipino, and I'm proud of the NHS. Today, there are more than 30,000 Filipino nurses across the UK. They work in the NHS, private hospitals, and care companies. My wife is a nurse. She came to the UK in 2000. They are part of the program to augment the ailing NHS at that time. And like many Filipino migrants, I joined my wife to the UK with my children because I want our family to be together and live a decent life. We are in the UK because the NHS and the employers came to the Philippines specifically to recruit qualified and skilled health workers. We came here to work for the British public, and of course, we came here not to be dependent on the British government. Migrant workers should not be blamed for the crime that is committed by employers who exploit and abuse their works. Like all of you, I want a decent wage for all migrants and British workers. I don't want a starvation wage. Let me be clear. I refuse to be blamed for the crimes of employers who abuse the right of workers. I refuse to be blamed for the NHS being closed and being privatized. I refuse to be blamed for the mistakes that this government made in removing resources in health and public services. We must stop unfair migration rules which allows exploitation of migrants. Let us organize to gain power for the workers to build a better society. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Now we've got to fight for it. These bastards love it, I'll tell you. Colleagues, the next speaker doesn't really require too much of an introduction. He's been leading the campaign inside the People's Assembly against austerity since its conception. He's the National Secretary of the People's Assembly against austerity. Sam Fairbairn.
Thank you, Steve, and Parliament Square, you're looking beautiful today. We're here today during the biggest crisis the NHS has faced since its foundation. We're here today because the Red Cross has declared a humanitarian crisis in the NHS, because wait times have reached the worst in history, because hospital departments are shutting down up and down the country. We're here because patients are dying in corridors, and because the NHS staff are overstretched, underpaid, and they can't cope anymore. We're also here today because what is this government doing about all of this crisis? Nothing is the truth. They are doing nothing to address this crisis. In fact, the truth is, as this crisis gets worse, Jeremy Hunt just goes into hiding. Theresa May just lies her way through interviews and doesn't address the issue. And the government is actually planning on cutting a further 22 billion from the NHS budget. We're here to say that's not good enough, that's a disgrace. We're here today because the truth is the Tories are deliberately driving our NHS into the ground. They're deliberately breaking it up. They're deliberately creating this crisis so that they can privatise it, sell it off to their mates in the corporations and in the big business. What more evidence do you need than this, than when Theresa May refuses to keep the NHS out of any trade deal with America and with Trump? We know that privatisation only means cutbacks, a drive down in wages, a reduction of the service to maximise profit, and that is the Tories' ideology. And that's why it hasn't stopped at the NHS. The same thing is happening in our education system, transport, housing. All of our public services are facing the same disgraceful outcomes. And they say that the state has no money to do these things, but it's very, very simple. You tax the corporations, more, not less. You clamp down on tax avoidance. You scrap Trident and stop waging wars. This is a very, very simple way that we can properly fund our health service and all the other things that people need. And now we have a choice. We either keep the Tories and lose our NHS, or we keep the NHS and lose the Tories. And friends, today is just the start. It has to be just the start of a massive campaign. We can't just go home after today. We need to get involved with our local health campaigns. We need to get involved with our local People's Assembly groups. And we are going to be organising a day of action, of direct action and all these kind of things on the NHS's birthday on the 5th of July. So look out for that. Thanks very much. I'll see you later.
Please now give a very warm welcome to Jackie Berry, who's an intensive care staff nurse. She's a member of the Demo Working Group, and she is also a member of the Unison NEC. She's speaking in a personal capacity. Jackie is an amazing, passionate woman who exemplifies all that is best in the new generation of health workers who are prepared to stand up and fight for the service they love, for patients as well as staff. Let's give a warm welcome to Jackie.
I'll hold it. My name is Jackie. I work as a staff nurse in a busy intensive care unit, and we provide life-saving support for the sickest of the sick. I haven't got to tell you what it's like working in an under-resourced, overstretched environment. Most of you will already know, the rest of you I'm sure you can imagine. I haven't got to tell you how STPs will be used to dismantle what remains of our National Health Service. Today I'm going to tell you a story, and it's the story of this demo, of our NHS demo. The purpose of today has been to bring together health campaigners, NHS workers, our trade unions and community fighters around three clear demands. Number one, no cuts, no closures and no privatisation. Number two, an end to pay restraint for NHS staff. And number three, for a fully funded, publicly owned, publicly provided National Health and Social Care Service. And here we are, in this truly historic moment, the largest demonstration to defend the NHS to date. And why are we all here? Because in spite of sustained pro-cuts, pro-privatisation offensive, the NHS remains pound for pound the most efficient way of providing care for the sick and the vulnerable. Successive governments, driven by a profit-seeking agenda, have sought to undermine and ultimately destroy the NHS. They have felt threatened by the principles of the NHS. Everybody pays in what they can and takes out what they need. These are the socialist principles that our forebearers fought to enact when they built the NHS out of the ashes of the Second World War, and it is these principles that we as a movement need to stand together to defend. On Wednesday, NHS workers will find out their pay offer for the year. Now, I for one am not optimistic. We have undergone an age of pay restraint which has lasted longer than World War II. We are 14% worse off now than we were in 2020. So no wonder there are 35,000 nursing and midwifery vacancies in NHS England alone. We cannot sustain this. The service cannot sustain this. And if we are served up with another measly 1% award, then our unions, our union leaders should have no option but to ballot our members and deliver coordinated industrial action.
General strike!
At Tavistock Square, we heard from the leader of Hammersmith and Fulham Council where they reject the cuts package implemented via their STP. Now, with the leader of the opposition present, it would be remiss of me if I did not ask him to write to every single Labour council, calling on them to follow the lead of Hammersmith and Fulham and reject the government's STPs outright. The Red Cross have described the NHS crisis as a humanitarian crisis. I would go further myself and say that this is a profound existential crisis, and we will need the full force of the organised trade union and labour movement throwing its weight behind this campaign for our NHS at every level. This is not a single fight affecting only one group of workers. This is a battle to defend our greatest ever collective achievement. The 1st of May is a celebration in the workers' movement. Let's make May Day a day of action across the country in every community to defend the greatest victory of them all, our NHS. Today we have made history by marching together. We may well have to strike together. Let's stand together and fight for the service that we need and deserve. Thank you.
Fantastic contribution from Jackie. Colleagues, we've got so many speakers this afternoon that don't need an introduction. The next one of them is certainly one of those. I'm so incredibly proud to be the Assistant General Secretary of my union, Unite, and to work with my General Secretary, Len McCluskey. Len McCluskey is my General Secretary now, and he will be my General Secretary in the future. But that will only happen, like the fight for the NHS, if you post your vote when it drops through your door on the 27th of March. So vote Len McCluskey!
Wow, what a demonstration! Can I first of all say how proud I am to share a platform with the leader of our Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn. A man who has fought for the National Health Service all his life and will continue to do so because of the decent, honest, principled man that he is. Can I just welcome all of you here and say a big well done to the People's Assembly and to all of those organisations around our nation who are fighting to keep the NHS in public service. And can I thank you for being here today. You've travelled from every city in our nation, and the police have advised us that there is 250,000 on this march. Thank you for being here. Of course, if the police say 250,000, well, I'll leave it to your own imagination. Colleagues, let me just remind us of what Ernie Bevan said when he gave us the National Health Service. He said the NHS would only survive if folk were prepared to fight for it. Ernie, Nye said that at the time. Nye said that because he knew that the reactionary forces within our society would always try to claw back this fantastic organisation. And that's why you are here today, to fight for our NHS. 2 weeks ago, Nye Bevan would be proud of all of you today. 2 weeks ago, I marched in Leicester, the largest demonstration that has ever been seen in Leicester, defending the Glenfield Children's Heart Unit that they're trying to close down. And that's why today you are the voice of millions and millions of people. I want to share something personal with you today. My mum and dad lost their firstborn son when he was 3 years old. It was pre the National Health Service, and he died because of a lack of health care. My mum told me of the scenes in the 20s and the 30s of young mothers with sick children begging on the streets in order to get a few pennies so they could see the doctors. And they drilled into me how important it was. It was their generation, it was our parents and our grandparents who fought to give us our National Health Service. It's our heritage. It's our heritage. It's our heritage, and it's our duty to make certain that we pass on our health service to future generations. You know, we are told by people we can't afford the NHS. We can't not afford the NHS. Our message to the government is easy. You bailed out the banks, bail out the NHS as well. And our message to the private health company vultures is a simple one. Keep out of our NHS, you thieving Tory bastards. Because we will fight you all of the way. Sisters and brothers, keep the faith and keep fighting for what is ours. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Len. Unite has been a fantastic support for this demo. I don't think any other union has done more than Unite. I even don't think we could have done it without them. So thank you so very much for that. Now, I'm delighted that Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the opposition, is speaking today. Jeremy has always been a passionate defender of the NHS. We need powerful opposition to this government's disastrous NHS policies, and a government that will defend the NHS, not destroy it. Please give a warm welcome to Jeremy Corbyn.
Wonderful people, thank you, each and every one of you, for being here today. I thank the People's Assembly and Health Campaigns together who've organised this event, because events like this don't happen by accident. They happen because a lot of people put a lot of work into this. Campaigning today, yes, but all those local demonstrations up and down the country day in, day out, week in, week out, on those wet Saturdays collecting petitions. It frightens the life out of the Tories and it heartens all of our supporters. So I want to also say, if you're a doctor, a nurse, a porter, a technician, a cleaner, whatever you do, thank you, because every day you contribute to what is the most civilised institution in this country, the National Health Service. As Len just pointed out, Nijbervan said the NHS will last as long as there are folk left with the faith to fight for it. We've got the faith, we've got the fight, and we're up for it. I want you all to give a very warm welcome to somebody who is back with us today, who's benefited from the NHS, and because he's benefited from the NHS, we all benefit from the NHS and for his fantastic work. Will you give a very warm welcome to Mark Sawatka, who's back here with a new heart given to him by the National Health Service. Yesterday I was visiting an old friend in hospital, an old friend who is in hospital having very important, very serious and very major treatment. And he gave me this message. This is from Rodney Bickerstaff, former General Secretary of Unison. And he gives me 3 very quick points he insisted I make today. So this is for you, Rodney. And he told me this. In the 2 weeks I've been in hospital, I've counted 20 different nationalities amongst the staff looking after me. And he thanks each and every one of them, the multicultural nature of our NHS staff. And he goes on to say, without the NHS being properly funded, with properly trained and properly paid public service workers, we would not be a civilised country. And then he says, anyone who dilutes it, tries to franchise it, has literally no morality. Thank you, Rodney. I want to give a message also from my friend John Ashworth, our Shadow Health Secretary. He can't be here today, but he's asked me to say this. Our fight is against the Tories, exposing their failures to care for the people who rely on the NHS, and the failure to care for those who've dedicated their working lives to caring for other people. That is what this demonstration is about. Our NHS is not in crisis because of overspending. It's in crisis because of underfunding, a crisis made down there in Downing Street. The Tories and the coalition before them managed to cut taxes on big business. They cut taxes to the richest families. They cut taxes for the speculators, cut taxes for the fat cats. Don't let them tell you there's no money for their NHS. There is no excuse for it. The money is there if you collect the taxes properly to fund it and pay for it. Every person waiting in A&E, waiting on trolleys, is somebody who should be properly treated now within our NHS. And they're not, because of those cuts. But there are others, such as the treatment of NHS staff. Think for a moment of every student nurse forced to visit a food bank to make ends meet, while they're at the same time caring for our sick and dependent people. Every elderly person denied the care they need. Every one of those things has come about from a political choice made by a government that underfunds the National Health Service and social care when they know full well the resources are there to do it. They're saying tax cuts are more important than dignity. I say this, let's support and value our NHS staff.
Rodney mentioned all the different nationalities that have been caring for him in hospital and care for all of us every day. Let's make it very clear from this demonstration here today. All those European nationals that are working here in this country, supporting us and our society, have every right to remain here, and we're going to stand up for their right to remain here. There are over 10,000 European nationals working in our National Health Service. So our message to them, the government, now is this. Our NHS is in crisis. In crisis because of the underfunding of social care, the million people not getting the care and support they need, those waiting on trolleys, those desperate to get into an A&E department and waiting for hours for treatment. It's not the fault of the staff. It's the fault of a government that has made a political choice. This week, the budget will come out over there on Wednesday. We want that budget to properly fund our mainstream National Health Service, our social care system, and our crucial mental health services. All three of them. All three of them are in equal measure important. They've cut 10% of hospital beds in the last 7 years. A&E departments are threatened all over the country through the so-called sustainability and transformation plans. They've cut £4 billion from social care and now suggesting we'll fund social care by raising council tax. I'll tell you this, raising council tax all over the country, if you raised it to the maximum, would only meet 1/6 of the needs of social care. And on top of that, it would have a problem, because if you take a local authority, a random place like, say, Windsor and Maidenhead, for example, and you compared what you raised there from a 3% council tax rise to what you would raise in, say, Knowsley, the poorest borough in England, you all know full well the difference. You all know full well that we believe every person who needs social care is equally valuable, whether they live in Surrey, Maidenhead, Knowsley or Newcastle or anywhere else. So the answer has to be equality of funding for all parts of the country to deal with the needs of the people of all parts of this country. Listen, the National Health Service was created by people with vision. The idea that healthcare should be free at the point of use and a human right. Other places don't have it. The United States doesn't have it. Many parts of the world do not have it. Trump and his mates in the United States are trying to destroy the limited form of healthcare that the Obama administration has bequeathed to them. Theresa May couldn't wait to get to the United States to discuss trade agreements with Donald Trump. I tell you this, we are going to block any trade agreement that gives a green light for US healthcare companies to come here and strip out and take from our National Health Service. It's not for sale, it's not theirs to sell. It's ours for everybody in this country to keep. And I tell you this, there's some interesting parallels of the time when the NHS was established with now. Those that wanted to found the NHS got the most unbelievable attacks from the right-wing press in this country. Those of us that stand up against the politics of austerity, against the politics of transferring wealth from the poorest to the richest, those that stand against tax cuts for the rich and tax burdens for the rest. We, every one of us in this square, gets denigrated as a result of this. But I tell you what, there is only one answer to this. You say it like it is. Our NHS is ours. Our NHS has values. those values of a society where everyone is cared for their health, also applies to so much else, such as how you treat the homeless, such as the housing crisis, such as the underfunding of education, such as the treatment of low-paid workers, such as those who don't even get the living wage. It's how you put your principles into practice that's so important. We've come here today to put our principles into practice, our principles of the kind of world, kind of society and kind of values we have. Defending the NHS is defending a basic human value and a basic human right. You don't walk by on the other side when somebody is in difficulties or needing help and support. You put your arms round them and you give them the love, the support and the comfort they need. That's what our NHS has been doing for all of us, all of our lives. Our very presence here today helps to guarantee its future, guarantees that we change the value system in favour of the people first, not profit, not the rich, not the tax dodgers. We know which side we're on, you know which side you're on, and you know how strong our endeavour, our determination and our principles are. Defend the NHS with all of your might. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here today.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that principled defence of the founding values of the NHS, that powerful challenge to the Tory government and that passionate call to action to all of us to defend the NHS. The government has shamelessly attacked NHS students, from student nurses to midwives to therapists, by removing their training bursary. But they are fighting back.
Who's NHS? Who's NHS? As long as we fight for it. Okay, colleagues, look, we've got some great speakers still backstage here. We've got John McDonnell backstage. We've got Mark Sawatka and we've got Dave Wald backstage. But right now, I've got somebody that you'll know, perhaps from the TV screen, more than anywhere else. I've got Julie Hedman-House. Julie did a fantastic job, not just in Coronation Street, but now in Broadchurch, of course, raising the horrific ordeal of rape publicly and in a fantastic way. But I know Julie more as a campaigner, as a fighter, as someone who proudly stands with us today to defend our NHS, our NHS. Julie.
Thank you so much for coming out today. I am going to be brief. There are many, many more people here you need to hear from, more than you need to hear from me. But I am proud to be here today sharing a platform with so many amazing people and marching shoulder to shoulder with all of you as a proud patient, not as a worker but as a patient. I don't think a day of my life has gone by without me having had to be grateful for this incredible institution, the National Health Service. And more than that, to its incredible, overworked, undervalued workers. Thank you so much to you all. But it is not enough to be grateful to the NHS and its workers. It has been amazing in the past few weeks to see so many people who aren't normally political mobilised to campaign in solidarity with our friends in America who are suffering at the hands of this horrendous presidency. whose domestic policies are coming in at rapid fire. But we must not take our eye off the ball here at home. By stealth, or sometimes in plain view, this government is dismantling and selling off the thing that we should be proudest of in this country, the thing that does more to work towards us being anywhere near a fair and equal society, our NHS. This government relies on us rolling over and letting it happen. And today we have shown in full and fine voice that we are not going to roll over and let it happen. We will unite and we will tell them in no uncertain terms, not on our watch. Thank you. Solidarity.
Thank you. Well, the NHS is not just the English NHS, there's the Scottish, Northern Irish and the Welsh NHS. It's all one UK NHS, and I'm pleased to be able to read out a statement from Dr. Philippa Whitford MP, who is the Scottish National Party health spokesperson in Westminster. She couldn't come to the rally today, but she fully supports it. So I'm just going to read her statement. As the NHS approaches its 70th birthday, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the generation that built it. Instead of celebrations, we see all four national health services under pressure as never before. The three greatest challenges are increased demand, a workforce shortage, and tight finances. The easiest to solve would be the latter, if the government would commit to fund the service properly. While it takes years to train more doctors and decades to turn around our general health. What has the Tory government chosen to do? They've cut social care so that more frail elderly patients end up in hospital where they don't want to be. And they've cut public health, which might give younger generations a healthier future. They've removed the nursing bursary, making it harder to train the nurses we need, and have failed to guarantee the future of 130,000 EU nationals who work in the NHS with us, or care for us if we are patients. In Scotland, we face the same challenges, but we still have a single, unified, public NHS, while here in England, the government have put outsourcing and competition before collaboration. And Aaron Bevan said the NHS would survive as long as there were 100 people to fight for it. Well, there are a lot more than 100 people marching today. I think there's about 200,000 people in this demonstration. I hope the government are listening. Now, I'm delighted to welcome Mark Sorotka, the General Secretary of the PCS Union. He's here today not only as the Union General Secretary but also as a patient who's received his life-saving care from the NHS, and he's a founding member of People's Assembly. Let's welcome Mark Sorotka.
Thanks very much. First of all, can we make a massive roar of noise for the organisers of today's fantastic march? Now, exactly 91 days ago today, I had a heart transplant at Papworth NHS Trust. And you know, it was the third time in 6 years I had life-saving treatment on the NHS. And I wouldn't be here today, and neither would many, many others, if it wasn't for the dedication of the most marvellous public sector workers we have known, who are our NHS staff. So make a massive roar for all our NHS workers. And you know what? When we think of the NHS, rightly we think of the doctors and the nurses. But in my 4-month stay in hospital, I saw what a fantastic team it was throughout. The porters, the catering staff, the cleaners, the physiotherapists, the community nurses, the paediatricians, all of the people that we rely on from birth through the whole of our lives. And these workers are being treated in the most disgraceful way. So if we're prepared to stand up for our NHS staff, make a massive roar. Now there's something else I think we need to say as well. There's a lot of talk at the moment about immigration and about migrants and let Britain becoming a less tolerant place. I'll tell you this now, if migrants hadn't come to this country, I wouldn't be standing here today because they keep our NHS afloat. So I hope you all agree with me that for Theresa May to use 3.2 million EU citizens as a bargaining chip makes me sick to the pit of my stomach. And I hope you all agree, migrants and refugees should be welcome in this country. And I hope to see you all here again on the 18th of March on the Stand Up for Racism demonstration to show the government that people should be welcome in this country. But I want to say one final thing. We're marching for the NHS. We're against cuts, closures and privatisation. But the most important part of the NHS is the staff. And NHS workers, just like the PCS members that I represent and all our public sector workers, have had 7 years of pay cuts under this brutal Tory government. And I met people, nurses and doctors and other staff who are heartbroken about having to leave the NHS because they couldn't pay their bills, because they cannot afford to make ends meet. So when we say stand up for the NHS, I think we have to say NHS workers and all public sector workers deserve a decent pay rise, and it's time the government give it to them now. So my final point is, if they deserve a pay rise, and all of us deserve a pay rise, it's long overdue that the trade unions and the TUC do something about the resolution we agreed unanimously in September, which is to get all public sector workers to campaign against the pay cuts and to take action together. If we do that, not only can our health service workers have decent pay, but we can stop the cuts and we can look forward to the future with confidence. Support the NHS workers, support Jeremy Corbyn, who's made a point of being here today. And let's say to Theresa May, hands off the NHS, victory to the health service. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm so proud now, however, to introduce a good friend of mine, a great comrade, someone that's fighting for the people's post, a comrade in action, not just in words. Dave Wall, General Secretary of the Communication Workers Union. Dave.
Yeah, thanks very much, Steve. And I'm here representing postal workers, telecommunication workers, financial services workers, because they know how important the NHS is to their families and to their lives. And when we say the NHS is in crisis, actually it's in intensive care. And the bloody Tories are getting away with murder. Who agrees the Tories are getting away with murder? See, for me, the NHS is more than a service. It's a fundamental principle and a right in our way of life in this country. And as far as I'm concerned, right, it's a personal thing. We have to fight to defend this service, this way of life, this fantastic thing that keeps our families alive. And what about the workers? You know what? I tell you what, when you hear them talking about pressure I've got a daughter who's a midwife. I've got another daughter who does the 999 service calls, and I speak to them. And I know, and I stand here today with all workers who are under pressure. NHS workers are under incredible pressure, but so are all workers. How many workers out there are under pressure to work harder, faster and cheaper for less? We got to do something about that as well. We got to get 1 million people out on the street in September fighting for a new deal for workers in this country. And you know that phrase they use that we're all sick and tired of in a way, because it's about spreading prejudice and division when they talk about taking back control. When the Tories talk about taking back control, they're talking about dividing people. Well, I'm going to say we should start talking about taking back control, but we should do it to bring people together. Are we going to take back control of the NHS? What about taking back control of the railways? What about taking back control of the postal industry, the telecommunication industry? What about taking back control of workplaces? Come on, people. Tony Blair said the other week, rise up. He said about Brexit, rise up. As important as that is, right, I've got to say, we cannot allow the future political debate in this country to be about leave or remain. Let's fight for the NHS. Let's fight for working people. Come on, everybody, rise up.
And now I'd like you to welcome Daniel Tiplady. She's a staff nurse and a Royal College of Nursing activist. She's a wonderful NHS nurse and activist who's fought to defend the bursaries for the nursing and allied health professional students. Please give a big round of applause to Daniel Tiplady.
Hello everybody, it's really great to be here with you today. I know it's been a little bit serious, so I'd open with a little bit of a joke. Theresa May says that Jeremy Hunt is an excellent health secretary. I beg to differ. There are 4 words that describe the nursing workforce: undervalued, underfunded, underpaid and underestimated. Since 2010, we have had a savage pay restraint inflicted on us at the hands of this government. Our nurses and NHS staff have lost 14% in real terms pay. Since 2010, chronic underfunding, cuts that run deep into our NHS, loss of beds and services have left our patients sadly dying on trolleys, care being rationed, our patients living in pain as there are no beds for them to have surgery. Jeremy Hunt, you make these cuts and you hurt our patients, and we nurses, we bleed. Since 2015, the government cut the NHS bursaries for nursing, midwifery and associated healthcare professional students. Despite clear warnings from both trade unions, frontline staff and students on how this would deter people from entering the NHS professions, the government did not listen. And what happened? We're now down 23% in applicants. In a nursing workforce which is 24,000 short, a nursing workforce with 40% of nurses heading into retirement, a nursing workforce which applications from the EU are down 90%. Jeremy Hunt, this is a very dangerous risk. Our student nurses should be nurtured and they are worth every penny. On Wednesday, the government makes their pay offer to us, and I say to them on Wednesday that it's time the government valued nurses and NHS staff by lifting the 1% cap. We give 100%, but we only get 1%. Our nurses are finding it a struggle to put food on the table. Some resort into food banks just to be able to get by and to feed their children. Gabriella, RCN member, says, I apply for food parcels for my patients while at the same time wishing I could have one for my own family. Our nurses have been pushed to breaking point both mentally and physically, working extreme hours just to pay their rent. An anonymous RCM member says, "If I sound irritable, it's because I'm on my 9th shift in a row." Our nurses have been pushed into a financial black hole. Cashflow, a payday loan company, said that last year 11% of their applications were for nurses. This is a disgrace. We may be underpaid, we may be undervalued, and we may be underfunded, but we are not to be underestimated, because we count. Last year, I made a petition to end the pay restraint for NHS staff, and over 105,000 people signed this, forcing a debate in there. Even the Tory Health Minister said that yes, they agree that we need a pay rise, but these are not normal times. If we nurses as a profession are not valued by the government next week, then this will be a step too far, because we count. We were right about bursaries, we were right about funding, and we are right about pay. Nurses, we do not have to feel downtrodden anymore, because nurses, every single one of you counts. Together we are stronger, and together we can campaign for fair pay, and together we can win, because we count. If I had my way, it would be strike, strike, strike. Because patient care is being impacted by pay, and a strike would be to defend all of you. So come on nurses, let's speak up, and together we will rise, because we count. Thank you.
Wow, give it up for the fantastic Danielle. Colleagues, we're coming to the end. We're coming towards the end of our programme. There's only a few more, but very important speakers to come before Billy Bragg sings us out, of course. But the next speaker, like so many before, doesn't really need too much of an introduction. He's part of a team. He's the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. Very soon, hopefully, to become the Chancellor of the Exchequer, John McDonnell. John.
I just want to say to all of you, I just want to say this. What you've done today, turning up in hundreds of thousands, and yes, sticking it through too. What you've done today is send a message to this government that we will not stand by when they seek to destroy our NHS. We will take them on at every turn. I'll be brief. You're getting cold and it's going to rain, but we have a debt of honour to pay as well, and I want to pay it today. I want to pay a debt of honour to the junior doctors who took action last year. It was a privilege to stand on the picket lines with those heroes and heroines, because they didn't just fight for their contract, they were fighting to save the NHS. We know what the government plans are. We know, don't we? It's more cuts when 30,000 people have died already this year as a result of those cuts. We know it's more privatisation when £9 billion worth of contracts have been given to private sector companies by Theresa May during her brief reign. And we know also she parades herself as a patriot, but we know she's going to sell this country out in a deal with Trump that opens up the trade so that the private American companies can profiteer from our NHS. We know their plans, so we know what's needed as well. This week is budget week, so we're calling on Hammond on Wednesday for an emergency injection of cash into social care and the NHS. There's 1 million people now not receiving the care that they need because of the £4.5 billion cut the Tories have introduced. Let us be clear though, let us be clear. It was a Labour government that introduced the NHS under Attlee and Nye Bevan. It will be a Labour government under Jeremy Corbyn that restores the NHS. Finally, let me just say this. Whatever it takes, we will save the NHS. And yes, we'll be opposing the Tories in Parliament. Yes, of course. But let me say this as well. If industrial action takes place over pay with NHS workers, whether it's on Parliament or on the picket line, Jeremy and I will be with you all the way through. And if we have to take to the streets, we will. Why? Because they're our streets. Let's pledge ourselves today. Let's pledge ourselves. Hands in the air. Come on. Let's pledge ourselves. Let's say it. I pledge to do all I can, whatever it takes, to save the NHS. Solidarity.
Disabled people are bearing the brunt of this government's attacks on the NHS and also on the support system for people with disabilities. From cuts to employment support allowance and personal independence payments to cuts to care and services for people with disabilities. Please welcome Roger Lewis of Disabled People Against Cuts.
Thank you. Solidarity to everyone here today from Disabled People Against Cuts DPAC. What a fantastic turnout. Has anyone here seen the film I, Daniel Blake? Yeah? Well, that's why DPAC exists. That's why we're here. That's why we're out on the streets fighting. Because benefit cuts kill. The NHS cuts kill. And those Tory bastards in the House of Commons who have been pushing these cuts through have blood on their hands, and we are determined we're going to make and hold every single one of them responsible for everyone who suffered under their attacks. DPAC has been fighting back against these people for the last 7 years. We fought by every means necessary. Disabled people are 9 times harder hit than anyone else under austerity, and for those with the most complex needs it's been 19 times harder. But we haven't laid down and taken it. As you know, we've stood up and shown that by fighting back we can fight back and make a difference. We fought back in every way possible. We've used non-violent direct action wherever necessary. We've used joining mass protests wherever possible. We've occupied the grounds at Westminster Abbey. We blockaded Westminster Bridge. We've stormed the chambers of the House of Commons. But we've also built solidarity with everyone else around us. We were proud to be out on the streets and the picket lines with the junior doctors last year. We were proud, and still are, to be fighting alongside our student nurses in their fight to win back their bursaries and for the future of the healthcare services. We know more than any other group how low this government will sink to push its attacks and cuts through. They vilified disabled people in the lead up to disability cuts by labelling us as benefit cheats and scroungers. And now they're turning their attention to migrant workers to say that migrant workers are to blame for the crisis in the NHS. That's why DPAC is proud to say we stand side by side. Filipino nurses are welcome here. Nigerian doctors are welcome here. Polish technicians are welcome here. Syrian children are not to blame for bed blocking in the NHS. Tory cuts are. The massive uprising against Donald Trump's proposed visit to Britain shows that we can unite all of those who the Tories want to see divided. and we need to do that now. We need to unite people against racism by joining together to say refugees and migrant workers are welcome here. All out on March the 18th. We need to unite and build a movement that says another world is possible. A world that puts people before profit. We need to unite to defend our welfare state. We need to unite to save the NHS. Solidarity.
Colleagues, it gives me great pleasure to say that we're going to end this afternoon's proceedings with Billy Bragg. Billy Bragg has sung the songs of solidarity for a lifetime, but has also acted in solidarity for a lifetime with working people in our communities, wherever they may be. So that's going to end this afternoon's proceedings. Before we do that, just to reinforce what Keith was just saying, this fight won't be won just by having national demonstrations in London. This fight will be won when we take the struggle for our NHS, like so many other struggles we face, into our communities, into our towns and our cities and our villages, onto our streets, into discussions in our workplaces, on our buses, in our pubs, with people that need to wake up. Wake up to the fact that these bastards will take off of you everything that you fought for a generation and more if we let them do it. Are we going to let them do it? Solidarity, comrades. Billy Bragg.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here with you today. I've long been of the opinion that socialism is nothing unless it is at heart a form of organised compassion. And that is what the National Health Service is. It's how we express empathy in our society. And coming together today on this march, that's what they fear most over the road there, because empathy with action equals solidarity. And what's going to save us in these difficult times, I believe, is our solidarity. So let's just finish off with a bit of a chant. This is what solidarity looks like. This is what solidarity looks like. Come on. This is what solidarity looks like. This is what solidarity looks like. There is power in a factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union, yeah. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood. The mistakes of the bosses we must pay for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full of mud, war has always been the boss's way, sir. The union forever, defending our rights. Down with the black leg, workers unite. With our brothers and our sisters, together we will stand. There is power in our union, yeah! Now I long for the morning that they realise brutality and unjust laws cannot defeat us. Who'll defend the workers who cannot organise when the bosses send their lackeys out to cheat us? Money speaks for money, the devil for his own. Who comes to speak for the skin and the bone? What a comfort to the widow, a light to the child. There is power in our union, yeah! The union forever, defending our rights. Down with the black leg, workers unite. With our brothers and our sisters, together we will stand. There is power in our union. There is power in our union. Solidarity forever!
to everyone for coming today. You stuck it through the whole day, and now it's raining and you're still here. It's absolutely amazing. Make some noise for yourselves! So we do a bit of last minute chanting just to, before we go. Yeah? Just in case they didn't get the message of 250,000 people shutting down London and telling them consistently. Let's say it one more time. Who's NHS? Who's NHS? Who's NHS?